Good morning. Welcome back to Digital Perspectives, everybody. I'm Brad Kimes. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackupBradley above at the top of the screen. Let's go ahead and get into this thing. First of all, we're going to cover some PayPal news, which you see before me. Then we're going to open the scope to a more global perspective of what's actually taking place. Oh, and there's a secret, all right, and we're going to find it at the end of this tunnel. All right, let's get going here. Right now, PayPal confirms cryptocurrency integration effort in a letter to the EU. In stark contrast to its stance in 2018, payments giant PayPal is working on cryptocurrency capabilities for its payment platform, according to a letter to the EU. I'm not going to read the whole article. I think you get the gist of it. I remember I did a video last year, I think it was December of 19, right at the end of the year, where Mr. Ahmed from PayPal was testifying in front of Congress about specifically using Ripple and XRP for low-value payments if they had the clarity. Now, I believe that that clarity comes in the form of calling XRP and designating it a currency. Now, we'll have to see, but let's keep moving because we have a lot to cover. So, and another thing I want to do real quick, too, is shout out Crypto Wolf, Michael Val 5 Links, Matthew Lioneye, DJ Peter Vass. These guys are relentless, and they're so gracious to share everything they find with all of us out here in the space. So thank you to those guys. They're amazing. All right, let's keep going here. Here's one from Crypto Wolf. The 5th largest bank in the world and Japan's largest financial institution, Mitsubishi's UFG Financial Group, is going to issue its Japanese yen peg stablecoin digital currency, which was initiated in 2015 and will finally launch in the second half of 2020. Now, I'm going to tell you, this starts the narrative really for the video here, because this is a global effort. This is a global coordination. It is not a mistake that these countries are falling in line and these things are falling at the same time. Chinese yuan, Japan's launching a stable coin, right? ECB's getting ready to work on theirs. We know the digital dollar's in effect. What we're really discussing is central bank digital currencies for the major currencies of the world here. And that's not a mistake. Okay, now here's the other beautiful part about this before we go on to the next piece of news, is that while we're talking about how great it is that Mitsubishi Bank UFG Financial Group is working on a stablecoin, the 5th largest bank in the world and Japan's largest financial institution, we should probably remind you that they're also a partner with Ripple. 5th largest bank in the world, Mitsubishi UFG Financial Group, is an official Ripple partner and will use Ripple's on-demand liquidity payment technology. Come on in. And shout out to cryptonewsflash.com, but this was actually cited information that was provided by XRP Arcade. Shout out to Leonidas. He does a great job too. Make sure you follow him, support him. Now let's move to the next piece of information. So what we're going to look at here is coming back to the top. This is the enhancing cross-border payments, right? So now let's take a look at this PDF as we move through this. The Bank of International Settlements, the central bank of central banks. Now, I'm not going to read this whole document to you so you can breathe a sigh of relief. However, what I am going to do is show you the relationship that G20 has with these central banks. You can see, again, the coordination, right? The effort that is happening between all of these entities. It is absolutely coordinated. Now, with that being said, I do want to remind people that it is a globe, right? It is a very big world. So when they discuss in here, and they discuss heavily in here, the different jurisdictions, the different regions of the world that have different compliance issues, right? Regulatory standards that are different from one jurisdiction to the next. And that does cause a lot of friction or problems that they have to be able to solve. But for a second, I want you to go ahead and just see that all of the central banks have central bank digital currencies for a second. And when you see that in your mind, imagine XRP sitting in the middle of it, almost like this diagram looks right here, even though that's not what it's explaining. But just imagine XRP sitting here. Imagine all of these being the central bank digital currencies around the world, right? If all of the central bank digital currencies are held to the regulatory compliance and everything they need to do inside of their jurisdiction, if you put XRP in the middle of it, it won't matter now. Now you've solved that issue. So now these central banks can develop what they need respective to their guidelines, their rules within their sovereign nation, right? That's the big and short of that. Now, let's just take a look at some of these initiatives through these boxes to what they need to do, right? So develop common cross-border payment vision and targets, implement international guidance and principles, define common features of cross-border payment service levels, consider the feasibility of new multilateral platforms, arrangements for cross-border payments, foster the soundness of global stablecoin arrangements, factor an international dimension into CBDC design. Factor an international dimension into the CBDC design. That gets interesting. Align regulatory supervisory oversight framework. Apply AML CFT consistently and comprehensively. Review interaction between data framework and cross-border payments. Promote safe payment corridors. Foster KYC identity information and sharing. Facilitate increased adoption of PVP. Improve direct access payment systems. Explore reciprocal liquidity and arrangements. Extend and align operating hours. Pursue interlinking of payment systems. Adopt a harmonized version of ISO 2022 for messaging formats. Harmonize API protocols for data exchange. Establish unique identifiers with proxy registries. Now, in this particular instance, I want to remind everybody that, Ripple just recently brought on to the ISO standards and committee, right? Or standards committee as the first company to explore distributed ledger technology, which is going to be huge for Ripple because Ripple uses a distributed consensus ledger, which allows it to work with the ILP and the XRP ledger so they can interface with anything else out here in the world as far as a network to accommodate its settlement. So that's pretty remarkable. Okay. Now let's go down a little further here. Here is a spot that I highlighted, and none of this says Ripple or XRP, and it's not going to. I think we have to understand what Ripple is positioned itself as a blockchain infrastructure company and the digital asset XRP to serve as, because we all know that they have been working from within the system, not from without like a Bitcoin, right? And that's why this all aligns with what they're doing. They are the only company with a token that is a part of the ISO standards committee, by the way. So, all right, knowing that, I just wanted to show here that it does talk about it is important to identify the gaps in these frameworks, such as the supervisory standards of non-bank remittance firms in advancing consistent, relevant international rules and standards and supporting their local transportation. The building blocks in this focus on the area target friction around complex compliance requirements and weak competition. Now, in this, I just wanted to highlight that, we know that Ripple is a non-bank company, right? We know that they are many things, honestly, but they certainly are a non-bank institution at this point. So for me, it's pretty interesting because, the XRP token can have the compliance, the governance, it's all built right in. You can have all of that built into RippleNet so it can serve its customers and partner base. And if you have a CBDC system developed, I think it'd be much easier to create that harmony that they were talking about earlier in the document. Now, let's just go down and skip through here. By the way, this entire document is a great read, and I will put it down in the comment section below for you guys to see it as well. Okay, so coming down here, I just wanted to skip all of these great things so we could get to the one thing here, providing domestic CBD implementation with necessary guidance to enable cross-border transactions via access by non-residents and or interlinking with international infrastructure. I wanted to highlight that. Interlinking with international infrastructure right there, right? Just remember that, because we're going to go on to something here in a minute. Well, another thing that's interesting is the chair of this committee, right, composition of Cross-Border Payments Task Force, is none other than Victoria Cleland. How many of you remember Victoria Cleland, Executive Director of the Bank of England? Some time ago, Victoria Cleland had a great article. We haven't heard much from her since. But this was published back in February 19. It could have even been a little bit before then. This might have been a repost, but at any rate, I covered this some time ago, and this was in reference to talking about the real-time gross settlement system. And they were speaking with Victoria Cleland. And Victoria Cleland, the Executive Director of Banking and Innovation at the Bank of England, said, I expect a big bang cutover because what you have with the RTGS is a core ledger supporting payments transaction, and we can't have some member or transactions worth hundreds of billions of pounds a day, and we can't have some members on it while others are not. Now, in complete fairness to this article, she did say that she didn't see this happening in full realization until 2025, later on in the article. She kind of pulls it back a little bit, right? However, I think with what we are seeing with the motions of the BIS and the Financial Stability Board and the domestic regulatory bodies here in the U.S., I don't think 2025 is going to be the actual final destination. I mean, look, maybe there are some lower tier entities and things like that by 2025 they'll be fully integrated. I think a lot of banks and financial institutions and companies will lose greatly, and I don't know how they'll even survive by 2025, to be honest with you. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that Victoria Cleland, the chair of the BIS, is the same person who really believes that when this happens, whenever it happens, she expects a big bang cutover. And what's interesting is after talks with the Bank of England's internal IT department, it is likely that the bank will keep the existing system up and running, the traditional payment rails, alongside the new one for a period as a fallback. So if there was any problem, we know we could recover back to that. Now that sounds exactly like what's going to happen, and it makes the most sense. This is remarkable. So, okay. So this is bigger than the Bank of England. This is obviously the entire central banking system, right? All right, let's move on. So the next thing here, this is a really great article here that just came out, and I want to just read this. It's not too long. Let's go ahead through this really quickly. Shows the consistency of the initiatives that are happening, and we're going to go somewhere from here. So, okay, coronavirus crisis has revealed just how much we can now live and work online in real time. Central banks have purchased trillions of dollars assets. Banks have provided billions of dollars of loans, and internet shopping has soared. Technology is discovered. We have discovered has advanced at a bewildering speed. But despite the technological advances, it can still take as long as 10 days to transfer money to different jurisdictions. Again, highlighting the friction. And it is very, very important for all of us to realize that during this health crisis, it is becoming more relevant than it ever has before. That's the way I want to say it. Yeah. So, okay. So, the 10 days to transfer money to different jurisdictions, and that transaction can cost up to 10% of the value of the transfer. That is insane. A payment from UK to some countries has to go through 4 currencies, as many as 5 banks. Cross-border payment systems still use message formats developed 100 years ago from telex machine. For decades, they have been forgotten corner of the global financial plumbing. G20 has tasked the Basel task-based Financial Stability Board with coordinating the development of a roadmap to tackle systems' various problems. The FSB's first report, which we covered, which assessed the existing cross-border arrangements and challenges, was issued in April. The second report on ways to enhance the system was published on Monday. The Committee Payments Market Infrastructure, known as the CPMI, of the Bank of the International Settlements, a hub of central banks and other financial regulatory supervisors and authorities. Fixing the plumbing matters. It sure does. Global financial transfers were well over 20 trillion in 2019, and we are expected to hit 30 trillion by 2022. Improving the cost, speed, and reliability of payments would remove friction that prevent many small businesses reaching out to customers beyond their borders. 6 out of 10 cross-border business-to-business payments require some kind of manual intervention, each taking at least 15 to 20 minutes. Better systems would make a real difference to many of the poorest of the and most vulnerable, disproportionately bear the cost of frictions and shortcomings of the current systems. Remittances from workers back to their home countries are now worth more than 3 times global development aid. It is perhaps no surprise that many seeking to send money home turn to alternative solutions that are less secure. These shortcomings have rightly been identified by proponent frontier technology payment systems such as Libra's or Facebook's Libra. Such big tech initiative have thrust payment systems into the limelight and political agenda. As per the CPMI report makes clear that this is much more than a technological problem, and it's not clear the frontier technologies are necessary or sufficient for the improvements we need. And what that really is citing there is all of the different jurisdictions and regulatory hurdles, let alone the legacy issues and the interfacing that needs to happen between the systems itself. The CPMI report identifies 5 key areas in which we need to act. These include a commitment to joint public-private sector vision. There we go again. Joint public and private sector vision. They cover better global co-coordination of regulation, supervision, and oversight, which we just talked about. They include much needed improvement to the existing payment system, such as existing operating hours, expanding access, and using liquidity more efficiently. Don't sleep on that one. They aim to ensure the different payment systems are able to talk to each other seamlessly, and then they report to suggest the feasibility incorporating more innovative developments such as central bank digital currencies and global stablecoins backed by some reserve assets. Now, listen, there you go right there. Innovative developments such as central bank digital currencies and global stablecoins backed by some reserve asset. Now, will that reserve be the paper fiat dollars of that stablecoin? Or might they be hinting that it could possibly be gold that gets repriced? I don't know. Hey, I don't know the answer, but I tell you what, they just said backed by some reserve asset. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. We got more to look at here too, by the way. Let me skip down here. The benefits of making it easier to transfer liquidity between 2 central banks can be achieved only if operating hours are made to overlap. The CPMI and its member central banks have a crucial role to play. The pandemic and resulting strain of the economic activity around the world have confirmed the importance of central banks in payments. Yet while central banks sit in the center of the payment system, securing major improvements cross-border payments is a formidable challenge that goes beyond individual jurisdictions and their central infrastructures. Again, I mean, this just screams to me that there is a real opportunity with the CBDC creation of the entire network for central bank digital currencies to place XRP in the middle of all of this. That way you could solve, I believe, all of these jurisdiction issues by having XRP sit in the middle of all of that different digitized money, as well as the fiat money itself. All right, let's move on here because we got a lot from that. So let's keep going. Blockchain could help boost global jobs. The World Economic Forum believes that blockchain could contribute to a $365 billion savings by 2030, reducing food loss and waste in the food supply chain. We've covered this greatly too with PDFs about how the supply chains could be updated using blockchain and digitization, tokenization. It's remarkable. I want to come down here to the bottom here where it really puts the number on it. It says here, where is it at here? Here we go. The WEF called to scale blockchain's potential to help create 3.5 trillion in value in energy and extractive systems. Now, to me, I take from that either the velocity of money that would be gained by implementing these new digital systems, and or the extraction of taking out the waste out of the old traditional models because of the updating of the new model. What's interesting about this is the WEF, right, talking about all the savings that could happen for the food supply chain, how that can be felt in all these different countries here, right? Which is remarkable, and it should happen, and I think it's going to, right? If you look at here, it says also, according to the Future of Nature in Business study shared with Cointelegraph, nature-friendly solutions could have the capacity to create 395 million jobs and generate 10.1 trillion in business opportunities by 2030. 10.1 trillion in business opportunities by the next decade. That's remarkable. But this is the World Economic Forum, right? And we just heard about the BIS talking about all of the situations we need to take take in mind when it comes to solving the problem of jurisdictions. Well, maybe the BIS, I'm sure, is talking to the WEF. Because this, as you see, is the policymaker toolkit for central bank digital currencies. And right here, it specifically says, right? Most relevant for wholesale central bank digital currencies. Crypto assets designed for inter or intra-bank payments and settlements. Examples, JPM coin and XRP. Starting to look a lot like that, right? I mean, that's what it's starting to look like to me. It's starting to look a lot like the all the money system right there. Let me get that up for us because I want to see that again. It's starting to look a lot like it. It really, really is. Imagine all the central bank system revolving around this, all your supply chains, everything else moving through it, assets, commodities, derivatives, settlement, clearinghouse, the whole bit, and XRP sitting in the middle of that, allowing all of the central bank system to work in complete harmony because it can exchange through the settlement, intra and interbank settlement using XRP. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I just want to lay out that information. I think the big secret or the big reveal here is just that, Ripple XRP, in my mind, I've searched it a million ways, and it is the solution. I'm not suggesting that something like Stellar or XLM couldn't do the same thing, or some other coin even, but what I am suggesting is I don't know of one that has the level of partnerships and the infrastructure and has been working so hard from within the system to be the solution for this exact problem. What I do believe is that Ripple XRP are about to pierce the heart of the traditional financial system. And this will not create change. This will actually create a transformation, a point of no return. Just as the internet has changed all of our lives, so too will the use of Ripple and XRP in the new financial payment system as a global initiative. This is pretty remarkable times we are in, ladies and gentlemen. All right, hit the like and subscribe, share with somebody you know. I'll catch all of you on the next one.